reasons why you're not a failure, you just divorce. Well, the first reason is that you're a human being. And as a human being, you are being something. And then this being which you are becoming is a process of learning, is a process of trial, is a process of succeeding and achieving to be that which you determine to be. In the case of us as Christians, we are being the image of Jesus Christ. We are being made into the image of Jesus Christ. So it is the same thing when it comes to marriage. When two people, for whatever reasons that they decide to use as their reason to divorce, because it's like they try to do something and they failed at it. You see, and because they failed, they may not look or analyze at the things which they've done wrong with a standard which is given to say this is how marriage should be. Because in the process of learning, we are first given the standard. The standard is the lessons that you're given before you're given a test. The standard is the memorandum which you're given before you enter an examination, so that when you start the examinations, you know that 1 + 1 is 2. So when they ask you what is 1 + 1, you say 2. Why? Because they first told you that it is 2. So that they're trying to see and try to test your understanding and your memory, that were you able to capture or assimilate what they've taught you. So in terms of marriage is like life. You have never lived before. You see, we are born as children. We're not born as adults, as experienced, as knowing it all. We are born as children, having only the capacities and the faculties to learn and acquire knowledge and apply that knowledge. So when a person gets married, they've never been married before. So the marriage becomes the lesson and the test in itself at the same time. That's why marriage can become a problem, because you're being taught in a marriage and you are being examined in a marriage. You see, so you cannot say that after you've divorced, you look at yourself, you think that you're a failure. No, you are a learner. You are learning. You are learning how to love. You're learning how to provide if you're a man. You're learning how to submit to a man if you're a woman. And if you are not able to submit, you should be able, as a human being who's becoming something, you should be able to analyze and say that this is what made me unable to submit to that man because of 1, 2, 3. And now you're thinking, you are evaluating and you're thinking that, well, in the future, if I was to be in the same situation, or maybe in a marriage, or maybe you're not even divorced yet, but you're thinking that this is the cause of the problems in our marriage. But if we want to make it work, what is it that we're supposed to do? Because the minute that you think that you're a failure, you have already, you're no longer being, you are something. So because when you are something, that means you're constant. You're not changing. But when you're becoming, you're changing. You're constantly developing, or you're constantly disintegrating. Development is more of integrating, is putting things together so they could form one whole. But disintegrating is when all things are broken apart and they're destroyed. So when you think that you're a failure because of your marriage, it affects other aspects of your life, because you think of yourself as a failure because you're no longer even able to focus on other things which may not even involve marriage, which may not even involve the same things that happens in a marriage. So you have to understand that you are not a failure, you are a learner. And some of the lessons that we learn in life can be painful. You see, sometimes when you're a child, you grab a kettle which is hot and you get burned. But you have learned one lesson: don't touch a kettle. You see, when you're a child, when you touch a kettle which is cold, you get burned. And then from there, as a child, because you don't have the discernment to discern whether a kettle is on or has boiling water in it, or it's just lying there without anybody, which means you can touch him. But as you grow older, as you exercise your capacities and your faculties of acquiring knowledge, you're gonna realize that a kettle is not always hot. But the thing is that at the beginning, you were able to learn, but in a painful way. So even in divorce, you're learning, but you have learned in a painful way. The most important thing is that you have to accept that it did not work out. That's the first thing. That's the first thing about solving a problem. You first have to understand that something happened. I was married, I was divorced because I didn't know how marriage works. Remember, whether or not you are the one who initiated the divorce, does not mean that you didn't know. Because the thing is that what could have happened is that you chose a person based on their externals, based on what they look like, not based on whether they also understand what marriage is, so that they could also perform their role to make the marriage work. So in a way, you contributed towards the failure of the marriage because you decided to marry someone based on what they look like, not based on the character, which is a requirement, because the character is the thing that is going to be carried out in the marriage. The second reason is that it is only through learning that we can continue to being, meaning that we can continue becoming human beings. That means this can continue, because without learning, you cannot be. You have to learn biology so you can understand biology. And then you further study more and more about biology so that you can grow with knowledge, with understanding. You can even bring other lessons which are not taught in the schools. Why? Because you have understand the basics, and now you're going out to find out more information to even seek more knowledge about biology. So it's the same thing even when it comes to marriage. You learn so that you could be able to apply what you have learned. So it's important that you don't take your marriage. Of course, it's a negative thing because we don't want marriage to fail. Or when we're Christian, we want marriage to work the first time. It would be better if people got married while they've learned about marriage, while they have understood while they've understood what marriage is. This way, they have a higher chance of having a successful marriage than just to marry out of feeling that because you desire that person or you are attracted to that person that you decide to get married. At the end, this may lead to a lot of failure in marriages. But if you have been married and the marriage ended in a divorce, it does not mean that it's the end of you. It does not mean that you are a failure in life. No, one thing in your life did not work out the way that you have desired. But the most important thing is this: it's a lesson. And in terms of the second reason why you're not a failure, is that you are gonna take everything that happened in your marriage, everything, both the good and the bad. You take it, you analyze it, and you use all the lessons that you have learned in terms of being a husband or being a wife, so you can now apply them in the future. That's why you're not a failure, because as long as you have the means to grow, you're not a failure. As long as you have the means to correct, you're not a failure. As long as you have the means to reform, you're not a failure. As long as you have the means to transform in terms of being Christian, you know that I'm not a failure because I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner because I have no understanding. But Jesus Christ gave us this understanding. Jesus Christ gave us this way of no longer living in sin, of no longer being slave to sin. So as long as you know this, you have this knowledge that Jesus Christ is the way to living a life that is pleasing to God, that is beneficial to man, then you're not a failure, because there is a solution. Because the only thing that makes something a total failure is if there's no means to solve it. There's no means to improve it. There's no means to grow it. There's no means to make it better. But there is a means to make a divorced person better. That means is that he or she must take all the things that went on in the marriage and analyze them and evaluate them in terms of what is useful and what is useless. Throw away what is useless and take what is useful and add, add, change the ones which were negative, the ones which were bad, and make them useful in a way that you are no longer going to do them. You're going to focus more on what is good so that you can grow in being good. You're going to focus more on, because you're going to realize that, every time that I used to do something for my wife or my husband, they were happy. And they always look forward to meeting me. They always look forward to, to being with me, spending time with me. If I can do more things for her or for him, then it means that I have a high chance of retaining that person. I have a high chance of making that person loyal to me, because naturally people are loyal to that which they can benefit from. Even in terms of God, we become loyal because we know that we can benefit from him in terms of being better, in terms of doing good, and the goodness and the betterness that we get from God, we are able to give to other people, and we become valuable to other people because of what God has given us. This is what determines our loyalty to him. If God was not adding any value to us, we would not be loyal. We will not continue the relationship with him. So it's the same thing with marriage. The second reason why you're not a failure is because you have the capacity to take that which you have learned. To take everything that has happened and make it a lesson so that you don't do it again. That even when you do it again, is not on the highest degree that it can lead to divorce. It can be something that can be corrected. But the minute a husband or a wife does not look at what went wrong in the marriage, and that means they are not going to study it, they're not going to analyze it, they're not going to evaluate it, they are most likely to repeat even the things which were not good, the things which were useless. That's why people move from one marriage to another, and all this measure leads to the same thing, divorces. Why? Because they don't take what happened in their previous marriages and learn from them, and so that they may not repeat the same thing. And in the end, the person starts to believe that they are cursed. And because they are cursed, that means they are predetermined to be failures in marriage. And in the end, because they put this stigma on themselves that they are failure married, then they no longer even want to get married. And they will even want to tell people the same thing, that don't try marriage, marriage is a bad thing, it will never work. They end up contributing evil to society because they are taking out what they believe about marriage to be what is reality. While it is they are the ones who made what is evil reality. But in reality, marriage can work if people understand what is expected of them, what they're supposed to do, and what they can get out of marriage.